Hi, David. This is Irene. Obviously, how are you today?
Obviously. Huh? Hi, Irene.
Obviously.
Thanks for inviting me here to drop in at your virtual studio.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This is a pleasure because I've been following few of your posts and points of views that you're sharing in multiple media. And what caught my eye is some of the ideas which are your own. So all I had to do is just to invite you for this chat. And I do hope that what we're discussing, the points, maybe the whole discussion, maybe some points, will resonate with people out there. So
Okay, let's
good,
hope.
let's get going. Enough of just niceties. Let's get going.
Yeah.
So what we decided we're going to talk about is, yes, it will be digital transformation. The word I don't like personally very much anymore. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
But guess
It's
what? It's a lot of effort, right? A lot of work going on around it. And I loved how you propose to discuss trends around what's elusive and what's real here. So
mhm.
it's a large umbrella. Take it away, David.
Well, I mean, you said something about these being my ideas. I mean, usually I'm working as a journalist. I'm synthesizing ideas from various places. So I've been writing for the Enterprisers Project, which is a publication sponsored by Red Hat, but it's a pretty straight ahead journalistic operation. My editor there was at CIO Magazine and InformationWeek previously. And honestly, digital transformation, yes, it is a buzzword. It's and it happens to be a buzzword that does particularly well in search engine optimization for their site. So they wanted somebody to write more on that topic. And I have had to work through too, because I want what I write to be meaningful. Is what does it mean? What does it really count for? And I've been asking that question to a lot of people. What does digital transformation mean to you?
Mhm.
I think it really is sort of people wrapping up their aspirations about what ought to be possible now that we have the cloud, now that we have artificial intelligence coming down for the ream of being extremely theoretical to being more practical for more organizations to take advantage of. And we have these generations of technology. A few years ago, I was writing for Information Week all about social business, and every darn thing that people wanted to accomplish in technology suddenly had the word social attached to it. There was social data reporting, which I guess meant that there was a comment field someplace where you could type something in. It And so we do go through these fads,
Mhm.
but I see it as being sort of the aspirations that CIOs, that business people have about the way things ought to be now. What things that were out of reach a few years ago, or required a huge budget to accomplish if you could get there at all, they see could be within reach, and they are starting to have these experiences on their phones and on their TVs. Smart experiences in their consumer life that they know they ought to be able to reproduce somehow in the business world.
Good.
So that's kind of a big picture take on what that really means.
I'll give you
Um,
that. This is a buzzword because guess what? There's a buzz around it, right? So,
right. And there's probably the extent to which people will attach I'm a business transformation thought leader
mhm.
to doing relatively mundane stuff
I know,
that
I
is not
know.
necessarily, very few organizations are really rewiring their whole business, remaking their whole industry. I mean, we've certainly seen it.
Mhm.
I think probably the biggest example of when an industry was completely remade was Blockbuster versus Netflix,
Yeah.
a few years ago, where and the story goes that at some point they Netflix went to Blockbuster looking for a partnership, and they said, "Go away, little pipsqueaks. We don't need to worry about you."
Yeah.
And then, a couple of years later, the business had gone away. Now, of course, since then, things have changed again and again. And Netflix is not necessarily, the king of the universe either. They're having to compete with other companies. So there are opportunities, though, to seize big opportunities like that for you. Opportunities to seize big opportunities. All right, I'm going in circles here, but
Good. We're in the same circle. That's good.
Yeah.
Because,
Yep.
definitely, right.
But most, if you can accomplish a significant change, a significant efficiency
Mm-hmm.
by sorting through the available technologies and rewiring a portion of your business,
Yeah.
that may be pretty transformational for your organization. So I guess just don't expect her to rewrite the rules of the universe overnight. That's definitely a lesson. And I was talking to you a little bit more about some of the MIT research that I've been following. The people who wrote this book, Designed for Digital, which I like a lot, do a good job of articulating what is really going on, and the fact that big organizations still have a lot of advantages. They may have legacy holding them back, but some of that legacy is still making them a lot of money. And it's not so easy for upstarts to come in and disrupt a whole industry. And we talk about Uber in taxi service, but taxis weren't big multinational conglomerates generally. They were small private operators who didn't see that trend coming. If you're a multinational corporation, you can have a lot of startups nipping at your heels and still hold on to your position. You do need to think about those competitive threats, but if you're smart and you take things a step at a time, and you do allow some room for innovation without necessarily throwing out everything that's working for you. You don't want to do that. You can get just as much advantage out of digital transformation as the startups can.
That's an interesting point we're making here, because I would say it's not that startups that really threatening the well-being of big ones, right? It's rather the niche players who are definitely smaller organizations, much more agile, and they're just focusing on this part of, let's say, technology spectrum, okay? They don't claim I have everything for your enterprise. And they win in these small kind of fronts. They win very often. So speaking of large ones, and I was part of the very large one for many, many years in my career. So I know how it feels from inside, where you want to innovate, you want to become next Uber, but guess what? You're not going to be an Uber, okay? You have your history of decades, of loyal customers. So I ask from my speakers to comment on legacy, the word that's less sexy than digital trends, but the word that all my practitioner friends, all my enterprise architect friends, executive, that they wake up in the morning because, hey, right, I'm not thinking how I'm transforming my company or my business today. Okay, they dealing with much more, what is much more important issues at the moment. So can you please give this guy a shout in a way that, yeah, digital transformation everywhere, and if you're not transforming digitally, you are left out. But where is this happy medium that you started talking about? Okay, my everyday loyal customers, my revenue, right? And the immediacy, an absolute need to transform and get the new way of working, get new way of serving your clients.
Right.
So where is that?
Oh, you want me to answer that?
I want you to answer that. I want you to bridge to this, yes, to those out there who really feel the pressures of, right, the pipeline growing, of customer being served, of customer experience, right, not overlooked. But at the same time, where do you start this kind of, intervention of new ideas and innovations in the business that may not be looking to transform?
I guess you look for what's practical for your
Mm-hmm.
organization. That, I guess that's really what it comes down to, is that, and that's that. I guess that's kind of the $1,000,000 question for any of these
Yeah,
organizations,
I'm going to
right?
grill you on this, David, because we said we'll talk about what's real, okay? Because what's elusive, I think we can picture with our imagination, but what's real, you think, or at least, right, your vast network of, yes, professionals out there doing every day. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think every organization has to look at, what is practical for them to achieve, and they have to try some of the bigger things and figure out where to scale back. I'm thinking of a CIO at an industrial supply organization that I spoke with, who they had some relationship with IBM. They started working on, could Watson be our digital customer service representative? Could Watson answer more of the questions, or assist the sales representatives in answering more of the questions that they get on a daily basis? So, big idea, would have made a significant difference for their business if they had gotten it to work, and in the long run they may get it to work, but they went a certain distance down that path and realized that they had created an AI engine that could answer one little niche of questions, and there was a lot of territory that they were not able to address. It was just going to take too long to train the system to provide the kind of automation that they thought would be possible. So he said that he was going to go back to that. He's going to work on that again, probably in the future. But for now, they focused on more coming up with a good, knowledge base for the customer service representatives who still have to field those questions. So, great things are possible, but you really have to be careful about the idea that there are just these magical technologies that you're just going to plug them in, they're going to suck up all your data and analyze it without any, human intervention or thought whatsoever.